Hello everyone, Shooty here, back for another shitty reviews. Funny, I'm funny. Um, so, man, what a wonderful time to be alive. In enter, ex- especially in the entertainment department. I literally do not have to say anything about any particular show, and you all know what show I'm talking about. Because it's all over the internet, and nobody will shut the fuck up about it. um, I try my hardest to divorce myself from mainstream entertainment. Um, to some certain degrees, and also from people who talk about it, because there's like this like extreme lack of uh there's like like this extreme lack of self-awareness from either side when it comes to the great culture war to some degree. And to make it clear, not to make sound like that I'm like one of these people where I think everyone's an idiot, because I am someone who thinks everyone's an idiot. um, I do fall on a particular side. I just um, particularly from the side of people who look at the modern entertainment industry and say that everything's garbage, and and it's all garbage for X and Y reason, except I don't want to sit here and endlessly talk about how the entertainment industry is dying and turning to shit, and how they ruined this and how they ruined that, because um that's like what they want. The people who are ruining all of these franchises, no matter which one, you could think of one right now, and I'm literally talking about it. But they're ruining it, and it's not because of the reasons we like to outline them for. At least in my opinion. They're doing it because they want your attention. They want to hear you scream and yell. They want to see your mean comments, your video essays, what have you. They love the attention, and you're giving in to them and feeding them that attention every time you respond to their stupidity. And that's why I just try my hardest to divorce myself from it, because it is much more effective to just not give these people attention. These crazy weirdo political activists were ruining entertainment. Anyway, I digress. Gonna I didn't even mean for that to become a 3-minute tangent. I'm gonna digress back to what I really wanted to talk about, and that is the Mass Effect trilogy, the remake trilogy. So I'm gonna preface all of this with my history with the Mass Effect franchise. Um, so way back when Mass Effect 3 came out, and not like exactly when it came out, it was more like it might have been like a year after it came out. Honestly, I couldn't tell you. I just remember a friend of mine. He brought his copy over, and I tried playing it. And I didn't get past the prologue because we didn't want to play that game all night. But I dug what I saw, so I ended up getting my own copy of Mass Effect 3 and played it. And to be clear, the version of Mass Effect 3 I played was severely different from everyone else's experience from the game. Everybody else had played patched versions of the game, and they've all probably played versions of the game that had DLC. I didn't have access to the internet at the time, so my exposure to Mass Effect was literally the version of the game that came on the disc with no DLCs or patches attached. So that meant the versions of the game, the ends of the game I got, all of them were way worse than all of them are way worse than the patched versions, and maybe I'm just like mistaken somehow. But basically, the gist of it is that the only ending you could really get was the bad ending where you had to destroy the Reapers by also sacrificing all AI in the galaxy, but that also technically meant, but maybe it was a bug, but it also somehow included, it also would kill all the people on Earth, and I think it's like has to do with oh, it had to do with the Paragon stuff. Like the choices you make and stuff, like your Paragon versus Renegade level. And if you didn't like have a high enough Paragon level, somehow destroying the Reapers would also kill everybody on Earth. So I that's like the only ending I could get. Basically, I think I could be mistaken because, and I'll explain why in a second. But basically, that's the version of the game I had. Um, so obviously, I kind of like was like sad because of the kind of ending it seemed like the only endings you get were bad endings. Um, I think you could get some of the different endings because the Mass Effect 3, at least on PS3, had like this thing where when you open up the menu, there was different ways you could play it. Like there was one version of it where I think it took out all the choice making for you, so like the cutscenes would just play out like cutscenes, and then basically you'd just be playing the game, and that's if you were like some weirdo who enjoyed Mass Effect gameplay. um, Other than that, though, I could be wrong about that. It's been a real long time since I've played that version of the game. But other than that, though, for the most part, that was the version of the game I had to play. I learned later on that pretty much everyone agreed that the endings were not very good in Mass Effect 3. They weren't like a really good. Like the ending of the game was not that great. So um, anyway, though, that's like Mass Effect 3, and then later on I played Andromeda. Um, and obviously, like everyone else, I was sorely let down by Andromeda. I mean, at first I shouldn't like I'm not gonna pretend that I wasn't trying to at least like see the positive side of the game. I'm a little bit of a contrarian, so when other people say this is dog shit, my head just instinctively tells me to disagree with them for some reason, and I think it's more or less because I like to also sometimes try to see like maybe a positive side to something. So when I was like playing it, Andromeda, I was enjoying some of the more positive things. It was also because some of my tastes in like storytelling were like dog shit back then, but slowly but surely my tastes have like changed and refined a little bit, and I like come to like despise Andromeda's story. So I shouldn't say despise, dislike. I'll say dislike because I don't hate it. I think there's some stuff there, but I think that they just completely missed the mark on Andromeda. I will likely do a revisit of Andromeda. Like I'll probably revisit Andromeda sometime soon and talk about it. But for now, I figured I'll just talk about uh, the first trilogy, the good trilogy. Um, Now recently, I've actually for the first time ever been able to play through the entire trilogy because they remastered it. So I was able to play one and two, plus their DLCs, minus one DLC from Mass Effect 1, maybe 2. I can't quite remember. I guess it's not that important that you weren't able to play it, so there's that. So, Yeah, that's my history with the game franchise. In case anybody was wondering. uh, Now I'm gonna actually talk about the actual game, which is probably what more people would care to hear rather than my personal experience. Um, so Mass Effect 3, excuse me, the Mass Effect trilogy, starting from the story was really good. Uh, Looking back at the criticism about how the endings aren't very good, which again, they're not that good, and I kind of admit it. They're not the endings you would hope to get. Um, uh, like, I guess right now I'll give a spoiler warning in case you haven't played these games or anything like that. In case of somehow me spoiling it way before the spoiler warning didn't already spoil it for you. Here's your spoiler warning. So, um, the reason why the Mass Effect endings, they're not good, feel good endings, and it's because of basically Mass Effect's story is more about the journey and less about the destination. Uh, Mass Effect's trilogy as a whole, the strongest part about the story is literally everything that happens between the beginning of the first game and the end of the third game. And that is literally what makes the whole trilogy worth playing is the characters you meet, the friendships you make, the adventures you go on. That is what makes Mass Effect so amazing for the players. It's less about actually trying to get that specific ending, which is probably why I personally don't hate the endings as much anymore. Um, I used to hate the endings just like everyone else, and it all makes perfect sense because Mass Effect's story is like a combination of it's like a combination of Star Wars and Star Trek. And what I mean by that is it's got the adventurous nature of Star Wars, the fantastical elements, but it also has the sophistication that you get from Star Trek. Star Wars brings you gunfights and ship battles and your heroes and heroines and love stories and what have you. While Star Trek is brings in the logic of the science of space travel, the politics, the the stuff that um is what really makes science fiction. Science fiction is about fictional science. It's often the thing that's forgotten about in a sci-fi experience. Um, a quick way to summarize what I mean is if we compare Warhammer 40K with Star Trek. Star Trek, they'll find a new planet and they'll explore it. Maybe they'll make contact with a new alien race. They'll maybe try to talk and communicate with this alien race. There'll be a wormhole maybe, and they need to figure out how to fix it because it's like screwing with the ship, and the crew is like trying to solve the problem thoughtfully and all that. Whereas Warhammer 40K is literally the opposite of that. It's literally you destroy everything in sight. And that's the solution to everything. Just destroy it. And there's no real science in Warhammer 40K. Everything is like over the top and fantastical. I mean there's like literally space orcs. and that's because Warhammer's not sci-fi. It's it's space fantasy, it, particularly grimdark space fantasy. It's it's not. There's nothing scientific about it. It's all fantastical. So that's where, going back to Mass Effect and comparing it to Star Wars and Star Trek, is that it's got fantastical elements to it, but it also carries over the logic, the thinking, that sort of stuff. And that's what makes Mass Effect so juicy, is that you get the best of both worlds. You get to have you get to have you get to try to solve problems without using violence. And if you want to, you can solve all problems with violence. And you also get to do stuff like you can romance other characters. You can you make your friends and stuff. You'll go on wacky hijinks adventures sometimes. You get all that, and you get everything you want out of this. And that's why this trilogy is so good, is because you get so much of it. There's like all three games put together, there's a lot of content there. There's a lot of dialogue, there's a lot of choices to be made, characters to meet. It's like it's so much in there. It's hard to unpack it all at once. Like, and to top it all off, you can carry your save game from the first game all the way to the third game, and those adventures matter in the third game. Your choices matter from the first game will sometimes matter in the third game. They'll sometimes in the second game matter in the third game, or the first game in the second game. Your choices matter in the Mass Effect games. They're not just background dressing. Um, they're not just they're not just like quick time event disguised as a pretend option for the player to make them feel like they're engaged in the story. It's literally a it's literally everything matters in the story. You it matters for bonding with your teammates. It matters for uh, uh, like some of them. It's like you would never think of, because you don't know what to expect next. And when the next thing comes, and the other thing comes back and like just like pokes his head out, it's like, oh yeah, I'm here by the way. Like a prime example is in the third game, Mass Effect game. You have to collect war assets, and some of those war assets can be things that people you helped in the first game will just suddenly become a war asset in the third game. Um, and that's like, and it's wonderful because it's like, yeah, I remembered that. I remember helping these people. Or, oh no, I remember fucking this person over. They're pissed off at me in this game. uh, and that's like the magic of the story, is everything matters. Everything plays into something. It's not just there to make you feel like you're making decisions that matter or not. Um, and that's the bottom line, the magic of Mass Effect. I could try to like go into characters and stuff like that, specific block plot points, but honestly, I don't feel like I could do that because there's so much to unpack. There's like so many characters you meet, and so many different things that happen, that I feel like I just couldn't like quantify it all in this one video. Uh, it's beyond the scope of this video, and in fact, I would argue that again, Mass Effect's about the journey, not the destination. So I think it's best experienced firsthand. Um, all of these things. It's hard to quantify in very few words. So I guess that's all I really have to say about Mass Effect as a story. It's just really solid. It's fun, it's adventurous, and it is thoughtful. Like you care about these characters even though they're not real by the end of the game. It, even like characters that you might not like at first, they might end up growing on you eventually. Um, so that's kind of I think that's like a they call that a character arc. Characters have arcs in this. Um, so yeah, I think I guess like I'll go into Negativeville with this a little bit. I do not like the Shore Leave DLC in Mass Effect 3. um, in Mass Effect 3, they had a DLC called Shore Leave. And what it was supposed to be like the icing on the cake in terms of uh, DLC content. Like this was the DLC you play before you go fight the Reapers, essentially. Um, and it's so the writing in it is it. I feel like the same people who wrote Mass Effect Andromeda probably wrote Shore Leave, because the writing is like that different from the rest of the game. Um, like the characters are not themselves in Shore Leave. Nobody acts the way they do in the rest of the game, and it pisses me off to no end. Everybody's stupid in it. Like, even the main plot of Shore Leave is stupid. Shore Leave, Shore Leave, uh, spoilers for all you who are, worried about that. um, real quick, actually, I should mention that I kind of like the idea of Shore Leave's main quest because it's a very Star Trek esque story. It's just the fucking like delivery is like what fucking ruins it for me the most. Basically, in Shore Leave, um, Shepard is Shepard runs into it. It's an evil clone plot. It's an evil clone plot. It turns out oh God, I have to go all the way back to Mass Effect 2. So in the beginning of Mass Effect 2, I don't know why they did this necessarily, but they killed off Shepard at the beginning of Mass Effect 2, and then they resurrected him. Uh, and they did it through this thing called like Project Lazarus. Now, in Mass Effect 3, in Shore Leave, they reveal that it turns out Cerberus made a Shepard clone, and they did this because they wanted to make sure that if the real Shepard had like any like medical problems, they would have a clone backup where they can get organs from and stuff. And I liked that, and it made perfect sense, especially if you consider what who Cerberus is as an organization and how they were like bringing Shepard back to life. It all made perfect sense. And in fact, you could almost extrapolate from that, and they never said this in the game, but in my opinion, you can extrapolate that. Hey, maybe Project Lazarus is literally they made a bunch of Shepard clones, and then they just took the best parts from each clone to rebuild Shepard. Like I could totally see that, and it's like, yeah, that works. Um, they didn't do that. It's just food for thought. The point is that um, it turns out Shepard's got a clone, and the clone woke up, and the clone's evil, and the clone wants to take real Shepard's place. Which this is all like again, this might sound stupid and ridiculous, but this is like this stuff happened in Star Trek in a few episodes, more than a few actually. There was like times when an evil version of a crew member would show up. particularly Captain Kirk. And that stuff was fun and interesting. This Shore Leave is stupid though because of the whole way it's delivered. This like lady shows up and she's like God, she's like a stupid klutz and whoopsies type of like lady. Actually, not really like that. She's not an airhead. She's just fucking clumsy and annoying. And oh, she's like Shepard's biggest fan, and all I can think is like, please go away the whole time. And then it turns out she's actually like not clumsy and incompetent. She's actually super competent, just pretending to be because she's like the evil Shepard's like sidekick. It was so fucking stupid. None of the characters act the way they do in the rest of the game. Everybody talks way too much, like way too fucking much. They're basically trying to do the thing where there's like constantly jokes and stuff. And it doesn't work because not all the jokes are funny. Uh, Real quick, a certain individual by the name of Richard C. Meyer uh, once pointed out that jokes are sort of like credit. Um, if you make a good joke, people will laugh. If you can make a good joke, people will laugh at your jokes that are not that funny because you've basically built up credit establishing that you are funny. So other people will laugh at something you say even if it's really not that funny. But then if you make bad jokes, then it's your good jokes won't matter that much in the long run. You can make a good joke and people will think it's funny, but they'll like hate your guts so much that they don't even really want to laugh at it. So that's like the problem with Shore Leave is that there's good jokes to be had. There's like funny things that happen, but it's buried in a swamp of terrible jokes and terrible writing. So you kind of just roll your eyes at literally everything that happens. Uh, and again, everyone's out of character. The whole thing is out of character. The Surely feels like it's a DLC that belongs in Mass Effect 2. It doesn't feel like it belongs in Mass Effect 3. If Shore Leave was in Mass Effect 2, I think I would have uh accepted it, but it's not. So the point is that it's the whole damn thing is just rotten from root to stem. I believe is the word. Um, not a good not a good DLC in my opinion. Some of the weapons you get out of it are kind of cool, but you don't get anything like good out of it. You get an apartment from Admiral Anderson, and it's like kind of useless because it's not like a house in Skyrim where you can like like fucking hang up all the unique weapons you picked up. It's just an apartment you can go into and walk around and activate things, but there's like nothing like to do in that apartment. There's like a party, you can throw a party with all your companions there, but it's like again cringy and everyone's out of character. So why the fuck would you want to do that? Uh, I digress. I guess it's Shore Leave is poop. The only thing I like out of Shore Leave is that you could see like other parts of the Citadel a little bit, but that's about it. Um, what else is there to talk about? Yeah, the gameplay itself in the Mass Effect trilogy. So, um, let's see. Mass Effect 1, uh, gameplay's kind of wonky, but the combat itself is actually stupid easy, even on the easy difficulty. I mean, I'm just gonna lay it out here. I played Mass Effect on the lowest difficulty because I'm not here for the gameplay. I'm here for the story. So I played on the lowest difficulty, and Mass Effect 1's stupid easy on lowest difficulty, like really stupid easy. Mass Effect 2, however, is pretty tough. Tough even on the easiest difficulty. It's uh it's hard to quantify exactly why. I guess it's because like I think it's just because they added in reloading your guns and stuff, and no, the enemy weapons punch you pretty hard in this game, and your guns do not do that much damage in this game. So uh, the easy mode in this is pretty tough still. Beyond that though, there's like not a whole lot to say about the actual gameplay. The shooting segments feel more like, ironically, in a normal game, the cutscene's something you kind of want to be over with. In Mass Effect, you want the combat to be over with so you can get back to dialogue, so you can get back to talking. um, that's like kind of the funny thing about Mass Effect. Um, Mass Effect 3's gameplay was definitely way more refined than the other two in most departments. However, they did a couple things that annoyed me. For starters, you can't holster your weapons, and that annoys me when you're like just trying to walk around and explore an environment when Shepard's got his gun pointed out all the time. Uh, what else? Mass Effect 1 had the hammer the it had the moon rover thing. And while it wasn't perfect, I liked it a little bit. It was kind of fun, gave you something else other than shooting up aliens in bars. The moon rover gave you something to do. And they kind of took that out in Mass Effect 2. They had like another version of it. I didn't like it though. It's just kind of boring. It felt more like time trial tracks, I guess you could say. Uh, Mass Effect 3 didn't have any of that in general, so there was like even less of that, and it was just like combat everywhere you went, essentially. Um, I guess that's all I have to say. The music score is pretty good. You know, good ambiance music. It's not. I guess that's all I have to say. The Mass Effect trilogy is really good. Uh, I hope they do more. I believe they've teased another Mass Effect game, so we'll see how that turns out. Anyway, my voice is turning hoarse now because I forgot to bring up a drink. So I'm gonna have to cut the video off here. Uh, might have something else to talk about in the future, but I don't know. Maybe I won't. Anyway, take care.